The development of maritime warfare has always been a major focus of Europe, a continent with more than 4,000 years of military history that predates the United States. From the Vikings who discovered North America centuries before Columbus to the Greeks with their triremes and flaming ships to contemporary submarine warfare tactics and cooperative operations, Europe has always been at the forefront of nautical technology. Today's video will examine the exceptional naval capabilities of Europe and why, more than ever, European nations and the rest of the free world have no reason to buy naval assets from the United States, particularly now that the USA has formally started voting against us at the UN. My name is Thomas, and I was a former officer in the Finnish Defense Forces. In the next episodes, we will explore other important facets of European defense, including air defense, artillery, tanks, armored vehicles, and drones. This is the first video in our series. You can click on the links in the description and comments to learn more about these subjects. An unusual naval setting. In contrast to other continents where naval power exhibits comparatively linear dynamics, Europe has consistently faced unique problems that have compelled it to innovate in the marine industry. Leading nations such as Sweden, France, Great Britain, and Norway use their fleets in a variety of situations and operate in very varied environments. For instance, Sweden's eastern side faces the Baltic Sea, which is less salinized and buoyant than the Atlantic Ocean, which washes its western shore. Similar circumstances apply to France, which has a fleet split between the Mediterranean Sea, which is considerably warmer and saltier, and the Atlantic. Countries like Denmark, Germany, and Spain are no exception. On the one hand, these quirks might have caused some nations to concentrate on other areas of their military, but in actuality, European nations have always placed a high premium on naval capabilities. For instance, ships operating in the Baltic Sea have to be lighter and quieter than those operating in the Atlantic, a requirement that has pushed the European naval industry to create unmatched naval technology globally. The subject is so broad that I will split it up into two videos. The first will discuss surface units, while the second will examine submarines, naval drones, weapons, and maritime combat aircraft. Independence of Europe in the naval industry. Prior to discussing the ship's features, let's examine the naval technology that Europe has imported throughout the last decade. Europe is essentially self-sufficient in the maritime industry, according to the data. While the United States contributes certain technologies, the majority are restricted to weapon systems and ancillary assets like helicopters. American warships are typically excessively costly and inappropriate for European requirements, which explains why. The United States used to export more than 30% of all ships and submarines worldwide, but now only approximately 3 to 4% do so. Weapon systems like the Sea Sparrow and the Phalanx, as well as the Sea Hawk, are among the most important exports. But the European military ships are distinctly more autonomous than the European air and land forces, which still primarily depend on American technology. European fleet pride. It is impossible to discuss naval might without addressing the ocean's most important resource since 1922, when the first aircraft carriers were introduced by Great Britain and Japan. With 6 of the 23 aircraft carriers in operation worldwide, half of the countries that operate aircraft carriers today are in Europe. Moreover, France and Italy are each aiming to add 1 new aircraft carrier. Since the UK is the biggest naval operator in Europe, it makes sense to start there. Even though the Royal Navy has diminished from its heyday during World War II, it is still a top-tier force and has historically been one of the most potent fleets in the world. The creation of an aircraft carrier program with the goal of projecting force globally has been one of the UK's lasting goals. The function of air carriers in Europe. The argument about whether the 2 aircraft carriers now in service are truly necessary is intensifying, despite the fact that the Royal Navy continues to be one of the most significant fleets in the world. Given that a potential land battle with Russia appears to be the biggest threat to European security, many are wondering if making a significant investment in marine projection capabilities was the most prudent move. The 2 Queen Elizabeth-class aircraft carriers, however, continue to be the biggest warships ever constructed in the United Kingdom. Up to 40 F-35 fighters and a variety of ancillary equipment for air and support missions can be carried by each of them in the case of battle. However, the British aircraft carrier development has not been without its challenges. The project's estimated cost has increased from £3.9 billion to over £6.2 billion, greatly above earlier projections. In partnership with industry titans like BAE Systems, Thales, and Babcock International, the Rosyth shipyards constructed the vessels, demonstrating the superiority of the British shipbuilding sector. Italy's dual aircraft carrier configuration. It is also one of the few nations with two active aircraft carriers, making Italy a major player in the European naval industry. Their manufacture is the responsibility of Fincantieri, one of Europe's leading shipbuilders. With space for 20 to 30 aircraft, including Harrier and F-35B or a combination of fighters and helicopters, the first, the Cavour, is a more conventional unit. The second is the Trieste, a landing helicopter dock, LHD, a kind of vessel built to accommodate aircraft with vertical takeoff and landing capabilities. Many aircraft carriers in the future are probably going to adopt this concept, which lessens reliance on conventional runways, given the latest advancements in attack drone technology. Italy and the United Kingdom are among the European nations most dependent on the F-35B because of this feature, which may restrict their strategic independence, as we cover in our movie on the weapon system. The independent model of France. France is the only nation in Europe that has consistently prioritized military industry self-sufficiency. Among European aircraft carriers, its sole one, the Charles de Gaulle, is arguably the most combat-tested and the only one that uses nearly all European-made weapons in aircraft. These two US-made E-2 Hawkeye surveillance planes are the only exception. In addition to 5 helicopters and an arsenal made entirely of European weapons, such as Nexter cannons, Mistral, and Aster missiles, the Charles de Gaulle can accommodate up to 30 Rafale M fighters. Spain, a significant shipbuilding player. In addition to being a significant naval operator, Spain is a vital supplier of military vessels to several nations. Norway, Thailand, Argentina, and Australia have all received units from its shipyards, which are among the biggest in Europe. Navantia, the industry leader, built the historic aircraft carrier Príncipe de Asturias, which can accommodate up to 30 aircraft, and the more recent Juan Carlos I, a smaller multipurpose aircraft carrier that can accommodate 8 fighters and 4 heavy helicopters. Additionally, the Juan Carlos I's design was transferred to Turkey, where 2 local versions were created. The burden of the European fleet, a displacement issue. A general understanding of the magnitude of the European navies is necessary before discussing the destroyers. A crucial factor is displacement, or the volume of water a ship displaces. This gives a broad idea of the size of the fleet but does not always reflect its operating efficiency. By far the greatest navy in the world, the U.S. Navy has a displacement of 7.4 million tons. Nonetheless, Europe has 4 fleets that rank in the top 10 worldwide. The Royal Navy of the United Kingdom. The French Marine Nationale. Italian Navy. Marina Turca. A total of 2.5 to 3 million tons are displaced by the warships of all the European NATO nations, which is around 1 million tons greater than the Russian fleet and on level with the Chinese fleet. Of course, there are other important considerations besides fleet size. Many European nations have made investments in more advanced and lightweight equipment, particularly to function in challenging conditions like the Baltic Sea. The displacement does, however, give a general idea of the European fleet's total operating capability. We will take a closer look at surface ships in the upcoming sections, beginning with frigates and destroyers. Destroyers are the foundation of European fleets. Among European naval units, destroyers are the second heaviest asset after aircraft carriers. These warships are primarily operated by the major European maritime powers, the United Kingdom, France, Italy, Spain, and Turkey, much like aircraft carriers. The Turkish version will not be covered in this overview, though, as it is a US-made frigate. United Kingdom and the Daring-class Type 45. The United Kingdom uses 6 BAE Systems-built Type 45 destroyers. Among the most sophisticated air defense units in the world, these cutting-edge ships are built to defend naval fleets and carrier strike groups from aerial threats. They use Aster 15 and Aster 30 missiles, which are part of the Sea Viper missile system and can intercept enemy targets up to 120 kilometers away. They are the largest surface combatants in the Royal Navy, aside from the aircraft carrier groups themselves, with a displacement of 8,500 tons. Additionally, these destroyers include an integrated electric propulsion system that guarantees quiet and effective operations, as well as a modern Samson radar system that provides unmatched tracking and aiming capabilities. Italian and French, the Horizon class. The French and Italian fleet's primary air defense unit is the Horizon class, which was created through cooperation between the French naval outfit Naval Group and the Italian Fincantieri. A strong defense capacity against aerial threats is ensured by these ships, which have a displacement of 7,300 tons and share the Aster 15 and Aster 30 missile systems with the Type 45. For offensive naval warfare, they are additionally outfitted with Exocet missiles, a sophisticated high-precision tracking system, and the Empire radar. Spain and Álvaro de Bazán, who is highly developed. However, Spain has 5 Álvaro de Bazán-class destroyers that are built by Navantia. These ships are notable for integrating the advanced Aegis combat system, which is also utilized by the American destroyers of the Arleigh Burke class. They have a displacement of 6,400 tons and are best suited for multi-role missions and fleet air defense. Their toolkit consists of the ESSM and SM-2 surface-to-air missiles, anti-ship missiles, Harpoon, torpedoes for combat against submarines. They can also act as a command center for naval operations, which makes them an essential part of the Spanish Navy. Spain already has plans to build a 6th unit to increase the size of its fleet. Frigates or destroyers? Classification is the problem. The size of the Álvaro de Bazán class is more akin to that of a frigate, according to some. But for the sake of conformity with NATO designations, we shall refer to it as a destroyer in this movie. It's interesting that the ship, which was shipped to Norway under the new name Fridtjof Nansen, was instead designated as a frigate. The frigates, inventiveness outside of the main maritime powers. Although we have discussed countries with a significant naval history thus far, the situation with frigates is more diverse. Germany, Denmark, the Netherlands, and Poland are among the countries that make extremely competent frigates, in addition to the United Kingdom, France, Italy, and Spain. Iver Huitfeldt's class in Denmark. Although there have been some operational problems recently in the Red Sea against Houthi attacks, the Danish Iver Huitfeldt class stands out among the other choices. It is worthy of special attention, nonetheless, because of its distinctive qualities and robust export market position. One notable characteristic of these frigates is their modular design, which gives them the flexibility to adjust to various missions. It is true that the Mk-41 vertical launch system enables the loading of a personalized mix of air defense missiles, anti-ship missiles, missiles used for ground attacks. Because military fleets can reuse Absalon-class design parts, they can reduce costs by customizing weaponry and sensors to meet operational needs. Consider the Iver Huitfeldt class as a modular fleet concept. Rather than constructing 10 ships for 10 distinct missions, it provides the option to modify a single ship to fit diverse operational scenarios, which makes it a cost-effective and strategic decision. Module-based frigates' impact in Europe. Denmark has shown how naval design flexibility can maximize operational capabilities. Using just 3 Iver Huitfeldt class examples, the Danish Navy can alter the payload according on the mission, a concept reminiscent of the well-known Danish Legos. The Danish modular approach has impacted numerous other countries. For example, the United States, Poland, Indonesia, and the United Kingdom have already started building their future frigates using designs licensed from the Odense shipyards, and the Royal Netherlands Navy has selected a heavily modified version of the Iver Huitfeldt as the foundation for the new de Zeven Prevention class. France and Italy, the Frem class. As with the Horizon destroyers, France and Italy worked together to design the Frem class, which is notable for its high level of technology and usage of only European equipment. In order to enhance European strategic autonomy, the Frem employ armament systems created by MBDA, such as the Aster, Exocet, and Scalp naval missiles, in contrast to the Danish frigates, which use missiles made in the US. Given the current geopolitical tensions and the uncertainty surrounding future US administrations, as evidenced by Donald Trump's stances, Europe ought to follow France's and Italy's lead and depend more on domestic suppliers for the manufacture of weapon systems and naval units. The class Baden-Württemberg in Germany. Finally, the Baden-Württemberg class, built by ThyssenKrupp, is the first German ship on our list that merits recognition. In contrast to the other frigates discussed, which prioritize air defense, the Baden-Württemberg is built to support ground assaults. With its extensive arsenal of missiles and guns, which includes the Naval Strike Missile, this ship is particularly intended for use in the Baltic Sea, where naval conflicts are expected to take place along the coast. The Corvettes, little but deadly. Moving on to a different category, we will discuss corvettes, which are a class of smaller ships that are available to various naval forces and are distinguished by their advanced technologies. Europe, especially the Baltic Sea region, has some of the world's best models. When discussing corvettes, it is impossible to overlook the Swedish Visby class, which is arguably the most sophisticated in the world in terms of weaponry and stealth. Its radar signature was so weak during tests that it was difficult to pick up by even the most advanced NATO radars. Because of its lighter weight, the Visby can travel swiftly between the bays and inlets of the Baltic Sea and launch an astounding array of Swedish-made torpedoes, cannons, and missiles. The British Air Defence System CAMM, which is less common than other systems but nonetheless very inventive, is also installed. Skjold in Norway's class. Norway may boast the Skjold class, the second best corvette in the world, if Sweden possesses the best. Its remarkable speed and stealth make it the world's fastest battleship, surpassing even the Visby. Its job is to use cruise missiles to attack and then vanish before the opponent can respond by taking advantage of the intricate geology of the Norwegian fjords. The Norwegian Navy's 6 Skjold units, which are stationed close beyond Norway's northern border, are regarded as a trump card in the case of a clash with the Russian Northern Fleet. Within hours, they might do catastrophic damage in a conflict situation. The Sigma Corvette's Dutch Sigma casing. The Dutch company Daman's Sigma class is another intriguing European model. It is interesting to note that the Dutch Navy does not employ this corvette, even if it is an outstanding one. In contrast, it has been sold to Mexico, Colombia, Morocco, and Indonesia with success. The Sigma class, which comes in 3 varieties: a rapid attack version, a bigger frigate-style version, and a regular corvette, is presently being assessed by Greece and Poland. It is still unclear why, in spite of its success elsewhere, the Netherlands did not select this ship for its own fleet. Conclusions and future episodes. We have looked at a variety of European naval forces, from massive aircraft carriers to the most sophisticated stealth corvettes. But Europe's maritime might doesn't stop here. The following episode will examine other naval resources, such as Quick Reaction Unit, submarines, drones of the Navy, systems of artillery and cruise missiles. The description and comments contain links to earlier episodes if you would like to learn more about other facets of the European military. As always, we appreciate your support. Enjoy your weekend. Ship anchor.